Next time you're in Goodwill, head on over to their houseware section. They always have a ton of unique decor over there, usually for under $5. This piece was only $3.99 and it also had a hanger installed on the back. We're gonna give this piece a nice, super easy updated look by taking some of this paint and applying a nice coat. I absolutely hated the color of this piece. Now, if you would like, absolutely stop here. The piece is stunning and already it looks updated. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna keep on going and add a little bit of silver gilding wax all around our piece. One thing I bet most people don't even think about picking up at thrift stores are vintage teddy bears. My daughter loves collecting vintage teddy bears, particularly this brand. And this guy was only $4.99 and I knew we could give it just a little bit of a makeover. Now, with something like this, you want to make sure you keep everything, especially because like its little bow matches the fabric on its paws and its feet. So that matters, especially if you're ever going to want to resell something. I had this beautiful lace in my stash that I picked up from thrift store at some point, and I just cut a little section and started tearing it off. Little stuffed bears like this make perfect shelf sitters or table sitters. They might just need a little bit of washing and love because, you know, sometimes they might look a little scary. After this little one was all cleaned up, I situated that lace around its neck and went and grabbed the piece that we took off. I made sure to keep the tag on. I just put it in the back. And then I also put a little wood clothespin around the fabric pieces. So this way it's just, we're adding to our rusticy, vintagey vibe here. I also cut up some little floral bits and put it in here as well and tied our bow back up. I made sure not to glue anything down to this piece. I know that these are antique and they're not being created anymore, and my daughter might have harmed me if I mess with this bear. But look how cute it is sitting on the table. Adding little things like that sometimes just gives old pieces some new life. When I seen this piece at Goodwill, I initially thought that it was some kind of tray, but to my surprise, it was really part of a children's toy. Since it was solid wood and only $2.99, I knew that even if I didn't use it for this video, that I was going to use it for something because it was a really nice piece of wood. It started with just giving it a nice clean down, was not worried about sanding the piece down at all. The plan was to keep the paint job rustic for this beautiful Bingo Decoupage TDS tissue paper. This is not released yet. It is part of my 2025 TDS release, but I had to use this beautiful one right here for this wall decor project. I'm gonna take some chalk paint and give this a messy coat all over the piece. I don't care if there's spots missing. I don't care if there's paint dripping. I was not going for perfect. And I didn't care that there was like pen marks or any of that on the bottom. I wanted to keep this rustic. I did use a couple little spritzes of water to help me move the paint around. I love to use that tip to try and save some paint. It works amazing with chalk paint. When I got to this coverage, I took some of my antique Waverly wax on a little piece of cloth with some more water and then went over doing a nice wash with this stuff. Again, keeping it very rustic. I left the center of the piece completely white. I did not put any of the antique wax there, so as we apply our decoupage tissue paper, the design pops, and then we can come back and blend things in afterwards. I took a little bit of water on the end of a paintbrush and then proceeded to trim out our beautiful design. I took a minute centering the piece, and then when I was done, I grabbed one of my TDS artist brushes. These are perfect for decoupage. I'm going to use them to spread out our Mod Podge and make sure that our decoupage tissue paper design is completely attached. I'm using just my hands here to press this down. This paper is super easy to work with. You could absolutely use cling wrap. I use the sponge as well, your brayer, whatever you would like. This usually goes on really well, even just adding a little bit of water and using your hand. But depending on your skill set, if you're a beginner, cling wrap goes a long way. I know most people love utilizing that to help get those wrinkles out. You could even use the iron-on method for a piece like this. It's really a preference. My friends have been decoupaging so long. If I'm being honest, I kind of like having my hands and my paintbrushes all in it. Love the iron-on method and the end result that it usually gives, but there's just something about brushing that Mod Podge on and applying the decoupage tissue paper with your hands that I absolutely love. Often I'm asked why I love fan brushes so much for decoupage, and this is the reason right here. Around the edges, you're able to take those thin layers of that fan brush and easily test out to see if everything is connected. It will gingerly lift up just the tiniest sections that haven't been attached and allow you to smush just enough of your medium underneath of there and then paint it right down seamlessly. Sometimes using a thicker brush can actually cause it to smush together, mess up the design, or even tear your paper, and I don't have that issue with these. When everything was dry, I took a little bit of that white background paint and tappity tap tap tapped all around the edges of our decoupage paper, blending everything in together with my finger. When I was all done, I took my little stamp and made it official that it was actually handcrafted by me and sealed over this whole piece. I absolutely love how this turned out. Sometimes it is the simplest of things that catch my eye at Goodwill. This little piece was only $2.99 and I knew we could keep it vintagely intact for me to give you some really nice ideas to use pieces like this in your home. Starting with a simple Dollar Tree decoupaged pillar candle and a vintage candle holder. This idea is super easy. All you're gonna do is place them right in the center and then add some greenery. I'm just taking a couple little sprigs of some lamb's ear here, and that is it. For this idea, we're gonna grab some messy moss. Now this is what I had right next to my crafting station. Obviously take this idea, remix it, use whatever moss you would like, or don't use moss, it can get gross. And sometimes it stinks, don't even get me started. Then I'm just taking this beautiful napkin decoupage candle and plopping it right in the center. A simple, easy way to add a little something something into your home. One of my favorite ways to use beautiful vintage pieces like this is around the sinks. They make beautiful little pieces to add your hand soaps and some little sprays, a little sprig of greenery. Just brighten up the area and add some really nice touches. I found this beautiful hand-painted bunt pan at Goodwill for $2.99. I mean, at least to me, it's a bunt pan. You guys, let me know in the comments below what you call this. I wanted to keep this intact, and I didn't really feel like it had a sealer over it. Was scared that I would mess up these beautiful hand-painted little gems of flowers if I did a real good soap and wash. So I just took my little spritzer and gave it a couple little spritzes with a napkin and wiped everything out. It actually wasn't really that dirty. And then I grabbed some of my Dixie Belle Gold gilding wax and gave all the little gold areas except for the centerpiece a little touch up to just help those sections kind of pop where they've faded over time. There are a bunch of ways that you could incorporate a beautiful vintage piece like this into your home without doing too much to it and not gluing a bunch of stuff to ruin the piece. So I'm just taking some moss and a couple little pieces of greenery, some berry bits. I didn't glue anything down, I just kind of stuck them in the center there and used it to hold some K-cups. For this Goodwill challenge, I'm going to be sharing how to do a stencil overlay on this adorable solid wood piece I found for just $3.99. Now the yellow tags were 50% off, so you know what that means. I only spent $2 on this joint. It wasn't really dirty, so I took my little water spritzer and gave it a little spritzy spritz and then wiped it down. There really wasn't even that much dust on this piece, to my surprise. For the main color, I'm going to be using this DIY paint in the mermaid tail color. Now, if you're not familiar with DIY paint, I absolutely love it. And if you're looking to check it out, my friend Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs is a retailer, and her link is usually down in my description box. I'm going to pop 2 coats on this little thing and allow it to dry. Use whatever color you would like for your base. I just really love this right now. I've actually been loving it for about a year. I love the little like tealish aqua, you know what I mean. Now, once it's dry, we're going to need to pick another color. I'm going to go with this one, okay? I'm gonna go with this one. And then we're gonna need a paintbrush. Use whatever you would like. I'm just gonna be using my little artist brushes. They're perfect for decoupage, but you can use them for paint as well. I like to use them for dry brushing, which is what we're gonna do to put a nice solid coverage all over this whole piece. And I'm trying not to stop in certain sections so we don't have any abrupt blobs in the piece, just going from one end to the next and putting a decent coat over it so that white is all over our piece with just a minimal amount of that mermaid tail showing through. Now it's time to choose your stencil. Spring is coming, at least I'm telling myself that as it's -8 up here in Pennsylvania. Okay, spring is coming. So I grab one of these and it obviously doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna trim this joint down so this way it fits on here perfectly. And these I just pick up off Amazon, okay? They're easy to trim down, okay? You can keep the extra little bits in a little storage container. I love to make sure I hold on to all my little bits. You never know when you might need a stencil piece. These are real easy to fit in just a spot. I also think it's really cool to create your own unique idea off of a stencil and then grab the same color that we used as our base, okay? This is going to create an overlay. Once it dries, it's going to look so cool. But in order to do the other side, so it matches, we have to wash the stencil so we can completely flip it. Once you have this washed, you're going to want to make sure you dry it completely on both sides. Place it down in the same exact spot on the opposite side. If you're going to do a double piece like this, you can take this idea and remix it and use it just on one solid piece. All it takes is 2 different colors of paint. Obviously, you could use more if you would like. Instead of using just the white, you could use multiple colors. And then your solid background color, you just pop that right over. It's going to give you an awesome overlay appearance. I love this technique, and you don't see it very often, but it's just another cool way to use stencils. Absolutely love stencils, and giving you guys ideas for these. What an amazing way to give a little something something for spring, because spring is coming, my friends. Spring is coming. If you're interested in more $5 and under Goodwill challenge videos, check out this one right here. And as always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, bye.